Hey there, Sturdy Maid. Just wanted to hit you back with another kind of idea for you. I'm driving down the road the other day. I happened to pass by something like this. Stop and visit these guys. 99% of the time, you're going to run into a couple of really good guys that are willing to help you out, give you the shirt off their back. I walked around. I said, hey, what's going on? Can you get rid of that green stuff? I got all sorts of the 6-inch tubing. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. Take a look. These are your 6-inch tubes. Right now I got them mounted in a little squeeze bracket to keep them solid and stable. Here they are as wind chimes. Now this is my version and it's not a whole lot different than anybody else's, but I got a few extra things going on in those. You can always do your spinning bridge with your skateboard trucks, lifting them right up on top. That way it's moving as they run across it. I also found that if you throw a bungee cord on there, you can kind of slow it down for some of the kids. So I got a few things going on and I wanted to kind of give you a heads up. Take a look.
So other than a couple of balance tanks that you walk on top of, it's awfully nice to have a couple of fat precisions to jump on.
Alright, so here's the holder in a little more detail. Basically, it's a piece of 2x6 cut with a couple of special things going on. First off, it's got a profile that closely matches the tube. That's the template that I kind of used, and I just slapped it on, and I'll cut it out with a jigsaw. This one happens to be, I'm going to have to cut for the outer circle. My white tube is a little bit bigger than my green tube, but the process will still be the same. I'm going to trace out my pattern, cut that out with a jigsaw, sand the edges smooth, and if you notice, the key to this is actually right down here. I cut practically all the way through with the jigsaw. I leave just a hair touching it. Then, when I mount it to my 3/8" plywood and glue it and screw it on from underneath, now, if I add these riser blocks, what's going to happen is as soon as weight goes on it, that little gap will close and this will squeeze in on the tube. Kind of show you what I'm talking about. Let's move over here. Here's one already on the tube. Doesn't require any screws or anything, but basically I just slide this onto the end. There you go. Stand it up, and the minute I jump on it, it's going to lock solid.
The whole key to my wind chime structure is actually a 1-inch piece of the PVC tubing that's been cut off. A section about 1.5 inches has been cut out of it, and this allows it to be compressed down and form an inner ring on the inside of the tube. Then I glue that in position, pull the plywood up against the top of it. This gives something for the plywood to rest against. I also run 8 screws in around the outside. Currently I'm using a 3/8" eye bolt in the top unit. This is recessed far enough that you can actually not even see it when it's strapped up and hanging up. Keeps the whole outside of the tube nice and smooth. Now on the bottom half I glue that ring flush, and then the plywood that I put in there, which comes from the inside, I actually have to put it in before I glue in the ring. I pull it back into place and it's only got a series of T-nuts in the bottom, 4 around the outside allowing me to bolt or unbolt the little ledge on the bottom, and 1 in the middle for an additional eye bolt that I can put in there in case I wanted to tie them down and keep them from swinging, or hang them horizontally and make it a kind of a climbing place. So with the exception of a couple of countersunk screw heads, the outside of my tubes are all perfectly smooth. That way I don't have to worry about anybody getting caught on anything. I can add a ledge or take the ledge off. I got kids version, adults versions. You can hang underneath or you can climb on top. Super flexible. You can even mount them horizontally if you wanted to. I could throw these into my brackets that hold the 6-inch and run on top of them and have have 3 5-foot long runs. Heck, there's a lot of things you can do if you keep your flexibility and your options open.
I'm going to assume most all of you know what's going on with the skateboard wheels and the spinning bridge. Basically, mounting them just a little bit of distance apart allows you to set the tube right on top, and it'll roll as you go along. And now, by taking a bungee cord, hooking it over the truck down there, flipping it over and hooking it back onto the truck, I'll show you that from the other side. So I'm going to come around here and just come back and clip there and there. That provides just enough resistance that a lot of the kids can actually do it. If I put 2 on, It's in real good shape. Still spins, doesn't have any real bindings, but it'll slow it down a bit.
So now you have all this tubing and you don't know what to do with it. How do you mark it? How do you cut it? How do you machine it? Well, probably the easiest thing to do is to get yourself a large piece of paper. I use a couple of manila envelopes that I've taped together and made sure that their edges were nice and straight. Wrap that around the tube. I use a bungee cord to hold that in position while I then align the edges, kind of snug everything up, and I use the manila envelope to guide a Sharpie all the way around. This will give you a perfectly square, perfectly straight cut. Now the cut itself, I jump outside, set the tube down on a couple of pieces of wood, and use a DeWalt circular saw. Simple enough, easy enough. This will give you an opportunity to cut through. If you just sit there and roll the tube back at you, let the blade go about a quarter of the way through the blade. So as long as it's through the depth of the plastic, it cuts in no time. Well, folks, thanks for watching my tutorial. If you've made it this far, you're going to enjoy the product. So go out there, make some obstacles, and have some fun. See ya.